Well, hello, all you beautiful people out there. Welcome to Wealth and Wisdom with your host, Wendy, the Financial Lion. This show, as you may or may not know, is all about getting rid of the blind spots, the self sabotaging behavior, the locks, the blocks, all of the things that prevent us from enjoying true wealth in every area of our lives, both physically, mentally, emotionally, and of course, financially. I am the Financial Lion after all. So, I have an amazing guest. She is a wonderful woman. She is the host of the D Shift podcast, and she has just written a book called From I Do to I Don't. But if you think the show is going to be all about divorce, don't tune out because it's not. We're, of course, going to impart wisdom. Well, I should say this, we're going to impart knowledge. It's up to you to apply that knowledge, and that becomes the wisdom part of the show. So we give you the knowledge, you apply it, it then becomes wisdom. So let me introduce my host or my guest, Mardi Winder Adams. And she is the go-to divorce coach for high achieving women. She is dedicated to supporting women in taking control of their separation and divorce to reduce the emotional and financial costs of the process. Mardi offers over 20 years of experience helping women navigate the challenges of high conflict and high asset divorces. Mardi is an ICF and BCC executive and leadership coach, certified divorce transition coach, and credentialed distinguished mediator in Texas. She founded Positive Communications Systems LLC and hosts the podcast The D Shift, Redefining Divorce and Beyond, and The Real Divorce Talks. Now, as I said, this isn't going to be all about divorce, but I wanted to have Mardi on because people are hurting out there right now. And the number two reason couples fight is over money. So we are here today to have a conversation about how to have those conversations with your spouse so it does not end up in divorce. So, Mardi, how would you approach that? If you're having money struggles, what should couples be doing to improve their relationship?
Wendy, thank you so much. And thank you for having me on your show. This is so exciting.
You're
Um,
so welcome.
I want the first thing I think is important is I think couples in the phase of the relationship before even the engagement need to have a very unsexy conversation about money. I've worked with so many couples where part of the problem was one person's a saver, one person's a spender. And when you have those kind of mindsets, you have that upbringing, you have that relationship with money that's very different. It's going to create a lot of conflict in the relationship because, like you said, money is the number two cause of couples fighting. So, or disagreeing, I should say. Perhaps that's a better word to use here. But um, if you do find yourself, okay, you've married now, that door is closed, right? You're already in the relationship. So what do? I think one of the best things that you can do, and I love podcasts for this reason, start listening as a couple to a financial wisdom podcast, like the Wealth and Wisdom podcast. Listen to that and then have discussions around the topic of the podcast, because that way it's not me telling you what to do or you telling me what to do. It is us discussing a financial topic. And when you do that, all of a sudden you're not adversarial in the conversation. It's more a fact-finding mission. It's how can we integrate this into our life? Or maybe it's we don't agree with that host, or we don't agree with that guest, but it gets you having the conversations in a nice neutral way. Books are fine too, but I just like podcasts. They're short, easy. You can turn them on and listen to them together while you're having a cup of coffee on a weekend morning, and then have a discussion about the topic around the podcast.
I really like that because you're basically kind of saying, what did you like? What didn't you like? And you can glean those answers without becoming confrontational.
And
I
I
think
yes,
that's a great idea. That's
yeah,
a
and I
really
think
good idea.
I think there's little bits of commonality that you could find. And then I think the problem is with especially financial conversations that turn into disagreements is I have my truth over here, you have your truth over
Mm.
there, and there's no common ground. We're arguing over what we don't agree on. But if you work from a place of let's find out where we are on the same page and then build on that, you're going to have a better outcome because you're already working towards solving the problem rather than looking at our two opinions and trying to convince each other that we're right and they're wrong.
Exactly, exactly. I have to confess, I was very lucky in this area of life because my husband, who I married in 2000, when we were dating, he gave me his safe full of money, full of cash. And he said, if I keep this at my house, I'll just spend it all. So I'm going to put it at your house. And of course, me being the little accountant that I am, every time he came over to get money, I would keep a ledger, an ongoing thing, which he was like, "Oh, that's so cute that you did that." I said, "Well, of course I did it because I want it all accounted for. I don't want any of it to be missing or, anything like that." So we're very blessed that money has not been a two-part thing. Although, see, he gets to skate because I pay all the bills, I do all the accounting, I do all the corporate stuff, I do all of that. And we did get in a fight one time, and I said, "If you keep it up, I'm gonna make you pay the bills." And he looked like a deer in the headlights, like, "Pay the bills? You want me to pay the bills? Oh my gosh." So we haven't had that dynamic, but that's really, I think it's kind of rare because a lot of couples don't combine
Mhm.
their bank accounts, they keep them separate, which I think in a way, do you take that as I already don't trust you? I don't want you in my money stuff? I mean, would you recommend that, or do you think couples should come together and commingle their funds?
I think that it is up to the couple. I really do. I
Yeah.
have
Yeah.
always, I mean, in both of my relationships, I was married and then divorced and then married and my husband passed away. So in
Mm.
both of those relationships, and there was others along the way,
Yeah.
but my money, I always kept, there was always, my money was separate. There was always a joint account that we both contributed to and paid the bills for the house. And then my spouse always had their own separate account. So we kind of did a hybrid of that.
I
Um,
like that though. I like that where we're both contributing to the household, but you don't get to go be frivolous with what I've worked so hard for.
right. And
Yeah.
I think whatever works for the couples. I always am a little hesitant when people say, well, I've kept mine separate, he's kept his separate. Therefore, we'll just take whatever we've got and walk out if there is a divorce. It doesn't work like that. It's 50-50 combined when they split it, right? It
Yes.
doesn't matter what you got in your separate accounts. So as long as you understand that the reasons why you're doing things, I think,
Yeah.
and it works for you as a couple,
Yeah.
um, I think that's really positive. But I did want to say something, Wendy. I think it's very common for one person to do the majority of the financial stuff, often because it's their wheelhouse. Like you're an accountant. I wouldn't, if I was married to an accountant, I would want them to do all
Right.
the financial stuff
Exactly.
too, right? But I think where it comes is when there starts to be a lack of trust, or there's different perspectives on where the money should go or what somebody's doing with the money.
Yeah.
um you know and once those seeds of distrust, especially around money, get started,
Yeah.
they're hard to put out those fires once they get going.
It is. It is. And and sometimes it's better to do that depending on who you're married to, because I've heard horror stories where one spouse went out and gambled away
Yeah,
the kid's college fund.
right.
So you need to know who you're married to, I think, and that directs the conversation about, do we commingle, do we keep things separate, or I really like kind of the hybrid for people that don't have that trust, like, no, this is mine, I've saved all my life and you're not going to take that from me, or I'm not going to risk this with you, but let's
Right.
open a joint account so we are both contributing, and that's understood.
And I
That's
think sitting
understood.
down, maybe scheduling once a month where you sit down, have a cup of coffee, or do it on a Friday afternoon, or have a glass of wine, whatever you want to do, just
Right.
sit down and maybe go over the books. Just like,
Yeah.
if you think of your relationship as a partnership, just like a business partnership, everybody should be aware of where the money's coming and going. And if
Yeah.
you do it on a regular basis, it's not awkward. It's just one of those tasks you do together as a couple, and it takes maybe 15 or 20 minutes, to go over it.
Yeah, my husband, I mean, his eyes kind of roll over in the back of his head, and I start to try to bring him into the conversation, but at least I'll say, "Hey, we saved this much, we gave this much, the bills are paid, and we have this much left over." So he's at least in the loop, he's aware.
Well,
And
I was going to say I've had a couple of clients, or a couple of friends, I should say, not clients, whose spouse who does all the money has passed away suddenly and unexpectedly. And the surviving person
oh yeah.
doesn't know where the money is, doesn't know even where the accounts are, what financial institute they're in. And that can be really challenging.
Yes.
You know,
Yes. And I'm glad you brought that up because that happened to my mother. My dad passed away suddenly of a heart attack, and she didn't know where the tax filings were, where the business accounts were, where anything was. And sadly, she's passed away now, but because she didn't know that, and of course she's trying to recover, they were married for 48 years when he passed away. So she's reeling from his death. And then she has people from the IRS like coming and going, well, that's probably worth money. And that's probably worth money. I can't even imagine what she went through, but it was all because they hadn't prepared. So I have told my husband, here's where all the bills are. Here's where all the passwords are. Here's where all the life insurance policies are. So at least he would have a foundation upon which to, and if I die, you don't have to pay this bill or that bill or, whatever. Just call the insurance company and get the money and all that kind of stuff.
yeah. And that's not being morbid. That's really helping,
Yeah.
your partner. If, God forbid anything happens, that there's some kind of a plan in place, because leaving people without a plan is the worst situation.
Oh
Yeah.
my gosh. And it's so easy to make sure there's a plan. I mean, if anybody needs to, just get on my calendar, get on the financiallion.com/schedule. And it's a very simple, it's like a one-page document. And it just says, what are your life insurance policies? What's your 401k or your IRA? What are your bank accounts? All that kind of stuff. And you should have that somewhere where your kids know where to find it too, in case
Yes.
you're both gone.
Yeah.
And you know what? That brings me to my financial tip of the day. I almost forgot to tell it. And that is, if you want to know how much life insurance you should have, there's a thing called your human economic life value. That's just a very long term for basically what is your economic impact? If you were to be disabled or get a cancer diagnosis, or God forbid you die, what you want to do is you simply multiply what you make and you multiply it by the number of years until you're going to retire. And you don't have to get that much, but that's the economic vacuum that would be left behind if you passed away. So very simple formula, just take what you make each year, multiply it by the number of years until you retire. And that is the economic impact on your family, on your loved ones, if you were to be taken out of the picture. So moving on.
That's a great tip, though. That's a great tip.
Oh,
Yeah.
thank you. Well, a lot of people just go, well, I just want to, how much is my mortgage? What do we owe on the cars or whatever? But you are your most valuable asset. It's not what you have in your 401k. It's not your home. It's your ability to go out and earn an income that first
Yeah.
and foremost needs to be protected, because there aren't any do-overs in life. Once you have the disability or the cancer diagnosis, or as I said, God forbid the death, you don't get to go back and go, oh yeah, I want that now.
Yeah. Well, and
No.
and I'm sure you're aware of this with the work that you do, but a lot of times now, if a spouse is getting alimony out of a divorce, or spousal support, whatever they may call it in your area, there's always a rider that if the payer dies, the support stops. Like there's nothing, it doesn't, even it might be ordered for 5 or 10 years if they pass away year 2 after the divorce. So now what they're requiring is for the payer to have a life insurance policy that provides a buffer for that, for the receiving spouse. So
Yeah.
if they do suddenly pass away, it's not like you're all of a sudden nothing. You get
Right.
that life insurance comes over to you. It's typically not
Right.
equal to the amount that you owe, but are going to own over that time. But it does provide some kind of a buffer. So life
Yeah.
insurance is very important. Yeah.
Yeah, it is very important. It's really the foundation upon which you build the rest of your wealth. If you want to build a skyscraper, you have to have a the bigger the building's going to be, the bigger the foundation has to be. So if you want to build a lot of wealth, you need a bigger foundation upon which to build that's going to indemnify you or make you whole if the death occurs or the disability or whatever it might be, right? So
Yeah.
paramount. And, I always crack up because you have to have homeowners insurance in case your house gets set on fire or burns down. You have to have car insurance in case you get into an accident. Well, we're all going to die. So why life insurance isn't mandatory is really kind of beyond me. It's like, that's a no-brainer, right? Like, why don't you have that in place? Like, and I think you've heard my story where my husband passed away. He died in a motorcycle accident when he was only 24, and we had a whopping $20,000 of life insurance. Well, the economic impact when he died wasn't $20,000. It was $1.6 million using that very same formula. And to not have that in place, there was never, a cushion. It was always month to month, week to week, paycheck to paycheck, no cushion whatsoever. And so to have that in place and know that you have that, I mean, wouldn't you sleep better at night and have
Yeah.
more peaceful sleep just knowing, okay, that's secure, that's good.
And
But
especially if you have minor children, I think
oh my
that's
gosh, yes.
important because, you don't want the surviving spouse to have to work 24 hours a day and the kids
Yeah.
are constantly being cared for by somebody else, or the kids aren't able to go to
Mhm.
college or whatever. So single parents, moms or dads,
Yeah,
it's a rough life for single parents right
it
now.
is.
So
It is.
providing that support. Oh yeah, I'm all
Yeah.
for that. Yeah.
Yes. And also, I want to mention too that when people do get divorced, make sure you change the beneficiary on your life insurance policy. I've worked with women who are divorced and they might have been divorced for a few years. And I said, is your ex still the beneficiary on your policy? Oh my gosh, I forgot all about that.
And
Let me,
sometimes you only have a certain period of time to make that change after a life event. Like you have to wait till the policy re-ups. You can't just out of the blue change some policies, right? I mean, some policies you're locked in, not all policies, but some are. Is that correct?
well, in a life insurance policy, there's three parts, right? You have the owner of the policy, you have whoever's paying for the policy, and they could be the same person or two different people. Like say a business has a key man insurance policy or something like that. So the business would pay for the policy or own the policy and they might pay on it, but the employee is the insured. So whoever owns the policy controls the policy. So if it's
Right.
permanent life insurance and you have cash value in there, the owner is the one that decides whether they're going to withdraw it or not. The beneficiary doesn't. But regardless, you should be able to change the beneficiary. It's just a simple form you fill out. In the insurance industry, there's always another piece of paper. There's always one more piece of paper. So when that happens, you can just say, listen, we're divorced. I need to change the beneficiary. And there shouldn't be a problem with it unless the ex is the owner of the policy, in which case he would have to do it.
Right.
He would have to take himself off. Yeah.
Right. Thanks for clarifying that. That helps a lot. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. It can be a little bit confusing when I first got into this industry. It was all Greek to me because I used to be in the field of natural health. But when I transitioned into the industry, because I can't do anything unless I have a heart for it and a passion for it, right? So, but I thought if I can get people calm and relaxed and confident about their financial future, I'm still having a positive impact on their health, on their marriages, on their relationships, how they go out in the world. You know what I mean? So that worked for me. That made sense for me. So that has been really my goal ever since. And if you want me to grow your wealth exponentially, well, just let me know because I can do that
Oh,
too. So let's talk about if people are struggling and they do need to put the big D in their life. What do you recommend? Because I know you work with high achieving women. What's some of your advice that you recommend when they're going through the process or they've just gone through the process? How do you handle that?
the first thing is if you do decide that you are going to get out of the relationship, before you start talking about that, or before you go get an attorney or anything else,
Mhm.
spend some time and find out where the financials are for the family. And this is something that a lot of times people don't do. They will go talk to an attorney, they'll get their partner served with the divorce papers. And then if the partner has a bunch of accounts that you don't know about it, you're never
Mhm.
going to find out about them, because they are going to close those doors on you, right? You're
Right.
not going to have access to that
And now you're
information.
already lawyered up, so it's
And
one
you're,
lawyer
if you're
talking to
out of the
another.
house,
Yeah.
yeah, or you're out of the accounts. The other thing is, make sure that things like your credit cards, that you are actually either an owner of the account or a joint owner on the account, not a signature on the account. Because if you're only a signature on a credit card, you can be out just like that. But
Yeah.
your partner just calls and says, I don't want him or her on the card
Yep.
anymore, and that's
Cancel
it.
the
You
card.
can't
Yep.
use it. Yeah,
Yep.
you can't use it. So you need to make sure you have your, as I always say, financial ducks in a row. You make sure your credit cards are there, that you have access to that. Make sure you know where the accounts are.
Mhm.
I always encourage people, grab your credit reports before you go. Like, just, you can get them online now. Just
Yeah.
grab them so that you know what your credit score is. Because if your partner starts doing things to tank your finances and your financial health and wellness,
Yeah.
you can at least show that you downloaded, these were your credit scores on this day. And then that helps you prove that, because you can track who spends the money. I mean, it's so easy now with online
Yeah.
access to this.
Right.
So keep track of all of that. Know right where you are when you leave. And then
That's
during the,
really good advice. Do it before you lawyer up
and grab,
because
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
because now you wanna ask a simple question, "Oh, that'll be $350. Thank you very much." You know what I
Right.
mean? Where you
And
could have
get
just
all the paperworks, make
yeah.
copy of it, your mortgages, your credit card debts, your assets, your, like you said, your 401ks, whatever, your income tax, your old income tax forms,
Yeah.
make copies of those. Anything that you can think of that would be financial, and have any big assets you've bought. If you've got
Yeah.
an art collection, or you collect something of value, get all the receipts, any valuations you got, any insurance policies you have. Make sure you've got all of that before you make the decision, before you actually leave, or before
Right.
you, like you say, lawyer up, because then information gets costly to get.
Oh, yeah.
And once you're in the divorce, don't make any big purchases, and don't do any weird financial things during the divorce. This is
Yeah.
not the time to start investing, or trying to, don't start a crypto wallet during your divorce. It
Right.
just leads to more confusion and stress.
Yeah.
And please, please, please do not take your wonderful family's advice on what you should do with your money during the divorce. Don't make any big transfers out of joint accounts. And if you're going to do any of that stuff, talk to your attorney. And then after the divorce, I always recommend my clients work with somebody who is a financial planner, financial analyst, and even during the divorce, a certified divorce financial analyst that can really assess, if you make, when you're doing your settlement, if you take
Mhm.
the house, what's the tax implications,
Right.
10 years down the line.
Yeah.
They run
Yeah.
all those scenarios based on what your state allows for divorce settlements, so that you can be really informed in the best financial decisions. And then working with somebody like yourself after the divorce, or even during the divorce, to plan, how are you going to move forward and start building wealth? Because you can build wealth even
Mm.
as a single person post divorce.
Oh, yes. Yes, you can. I am living proof of that.
And sometimes you can do it easier, because you're not having to convince a partner. You can create a plan for yourself, and then you're good to go on it.
Yes.
You don't have that other person.
Well, you know what? I think you almost have to look at divorce like you would a death in a way, because it is a death. It's a death of a relationship. And just as this, it's almost the same advice for someone who's become widowed. You don't move, you don't sell the house, you don't make any big financial decisions for a year. You just
Yeah.
want to just kind of absorb what's been going on and catch your breath and
Yeah.
don't make those decisions when you're in that state of mind or you're under that emotional duress,
And
right?
that's one of the things about divorce. So that is wonderful advice. I couldn't have said it better. But here's what divorce is. Here's all of your assets you've accumulated to this point. Now decide in a mediation in 4 hours how you want to split this stuff
Yeah.
up. or we're going to let some random judge make
Yeah.
that decision
Right.
for you. Like, so divorce kind of goes
Yeah.
everything against what that great advice. But once you're through the process and you know what you've got, you know what
Right.
your assets are, then really becoming strategic about how you're
Yeah.
going to move forward is so critical.
Yes, yes, absolutely. And, I'll just put this out there. I do have a checklist, what to do after divorce. So if you go to the Financial Lion, Lyon, thefinanciallion.com, there is a page that's called What to Do After Divorce, and you can download the checklist there. So it'll tell you what you need to do right away, what can wait, what you can really put off down the road, how to assemble your team. You're going to need, a tax team. You're going to need a financial team. You're going to need this, that, and the other thing. And it's a really very comprehensive. So if anybody is going through that, again, just go to thefinanciallion.com and look for the What to Do After Divorce page. But we are not done there, because my lovely guest, Mardi, has a wonderful gift for you. All my guests are so generous to my audience. So, Mardi, tell us about the gift that you have for the
Sure.
audience
Thanks,
today.
Wendy. So one of the things I do is, like I said, divorce can be incredibly stressful, and I work with people at all different stages. If anybody is in a situation they're not sure if they want to get a divorce, should I stay or should I go? If they're still in that mode, or if they've made the decision, if they don't know how to hire an attorney, if they're not sure what's going on, how am I going to talk to my ex about this? How am I going to talk to my kids? I offer a divorce strategy planning session. So it is completely complimentary, no obligations. You can hop on Zoom with me. If you're really uncomfortable about Zoom, we can talk on the phone. And
Yeah,
it's
people
about
do still
30
do that.
minutes. Well, some people just get zoomed out, right?
Right?
So it's kind of nice sometimes just to have a regular old call. So just schedule on the link, and then if you don't want to do it by Zoom, just reach out to me, and we can set it up by phone. But it's really just 30 minutes where I will work with one problem with you, and we can coach you through and look at developing a strategy for you that's going to work for you, customized to you, that's going to work moving forward. So if that's any help to any of your people, please feel free. I'm here.
Awesome. I love that. That's so kind and so generous of you, Marty. And if you were going through this, I would highly recommend Marty would be the go-to woman that you want to talk to about going through this. And I've read her book, From I Do to I Don't, and her passion just shines through every page. And it really also talks about, it's a very holistic look at divorce, where you want to build resilience, what to do about your finances, all of these different facets that come into your life as a result. So I got to put a plug out for her there, From I Do to I Don't, and it's available on Amazon. So go get it right now.
Thank you, Wendy.
You're
Thank you.
welcome. You're welcome. So we are just about out of time. So I want to tell the listeners, thank you so much for being here. I hope that we did impart some knowledge that you can then apply to become wisdom. And until next time, be safe and know that you are loved. And remember, life doesn't come with a remote control. You've got to get up and change it yourself. All right. Until next time, everyone, I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.